What are 7 essential questions every Scrum Master should ask him or herself before heading out to their first interview? Or alternatively, what are some of the 7 common most asked questions in an interview that you should pay attention to it? Not only on knowing how to answer the question, but also understanding why these questions are like the most asked question. So in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to go through all of these questions and I'm going to give you my own suggestions. My own suggestion might not be the best. Remember, it's Agile. Agile is about flexibility, right? The reason we share knowledge is for you to kind of reflect and see how what you know is kind of related to what it kind of close what you know is related to what is needed. All right. But rest assured that I always say there's no right or wrong way of saying it. It's most often based on the exposure where you have or what you have been open to. So before we get ahead to get started with our question today is the 15th of August. We're starting with our next set training of SAFe Scrum Master. You still have a couple of hours to opt in if you want to opt in. And I think today is going to be the last session, which we're going to run it at a discount. Currently now it's $6.99. The subsequent session is going to go to the normal price, which is $1,000 for a setting, right? But if you kind of look at what we deliver for anyone that has been in our session, the value is nothing compared to the price. So I think it's something, if you want to get more serious about Scrum, you should be self-certified. That is my opinion though. And for those who you've been in the field, you're having some challenges, we have like a whole back-to-back full tutoring, including not just Scrum preparation, leadership, coaching, mentoring, that will help you get to that position in less than no time. For those who are already in the market and they need a community of practice, we also offer a community of practice with a lot of resources. And that place when you're stuck and you feel like, you know what, I'm getting fed up with or what is going on in here. Remember, in the job, it's not that easy, right? The reason why Scrum is more on the leadership, and the reason why you kind of go through several interviews before actually getting to the position. They want to try your mental ability to handle stress, to be able to deal with people. So it's very, very important for you not just to understand how to answer Scrum question, understand the leadership, how to relate with people, understand also how to go beyond just being a Scrum Master is very important. And all of that you can only get if you're in a community where you're meeting with other people, where you're exchanging ideas, when you kind of have an idea from how other people are responding to questions and what you're doing and what is the difference. So there's so much learning going on in this space, which is why we treat our community of practice, our masterminds, is so dear to us. And sometimes a lot of people feel like, oh, I want to be part of your community. Can you mentor me? And when I tell them what it takes, it's like, oh, you know what, I'm low in budget. Definitely, it's not that cheap, I would say. But it's because we are putting in the best of best. It's not just to put you in there, answer question and answer, put you in there. Any of our students that get a job, they always get about 2 or 3 of them. Not only that, that's not even the point. The point is they know exactly what to do when they get in. And that's what we want, right? You don't want to get in your first day of job. You don't even know what you need to do. That's very dangerous. So we are closing that gap. All right, back to our question for the 7 questions which we want to work out for today. The first question is, why do you want to be a Scrum Master in our company? So this question, it want to evaluate your understanding of Scrum. So alternatively, I can ask this question: what is Scrum and how are you going to help us achieve our business value using Scrum? So the short way they ask this question is, why do you want to be a Scrum Master in our company? Now, if I want to respond to this question, I would say thanks. It's a great question. Of course, if I did not really understand what it takes to be a Scrum Master, I will not be at this interview. So one of the the value I'm going to be bringing to your company is my understanding of how we can use or leverage the Scrum framework to deliver value. Now, I know I'll be assigned to work on a project or a product, so I intend to leverage my skills on people communication, on facilitating event to help you meet your business value. And now understanding the values of Scrum, which is about openness, which is about most importantly for me, I talk about relationship a lot and understanding people value, because Scrum is customer centric. So by understanding the value which we want to deliver to our customer, and understanding that it's all about helping the customer be part of the solution from the start, because we operate in, or we deliver in increment and in iteration. I think there's so much value that I'm bringing to your company. Coupled to the fact I have diverse industrial background, carrying across project management, leadership, and business, which I think that is also going to go a long way to make me a good fit for this position. All right, perfect. So the second question, which is also the most frequently asked question, is what does people over processes look like in practice? All right, people over processes, remember, is one of the core value in the Agile manifesto. The first thing you need to know. So we say we value people over processes. What does it mean in practice? What it means in practice is that with Scrum or with Agile, although we might have a plan on how to deliver this product, we want to pay attention to the changing need of the client. So that is why we run in iteration, so that if there is anything that needs to be changed, updated, we can do it even in the middle of the process. We don't want to stick so much on the process and say, oh no, we already planned this from the onset, we cannot change it. So people over processes means that we're paying attention to the need of the client rather than paying attention to the documentation that we have put in place, which is the case of waterfall. Right. The third question says that a member of your team has stopped attending daily Scrum. What do you do as a Scrum Master? All right. This is a very simple question and a very tricky question. I know a lot of you will want to kind of start giving so many scenarios and start explaining maybe what you have done in the past. This is good. But then remember, one of the trick of really getting through your interviews without opening up in area where you might not really have expertise there is to be able to focus on the question. Focus on the question. You stop attending. What do you do? All right. Now, if one of my team members has stopped attending, now pay attention to the way I respond. Sometimes for you to really stick to the questions, you need to make the question part of your answer. Now, for instance, I'm saying if one of my team members has stopped attending Scrum interview, you realize that I definitely will give a solution here. But if you did not really pay attention to this question, you might say, okay, I had a scenario like that 5 years ago, and this is what happened, and this is what happened. This is still good, right? That approach is still good. But then what the interviewer is really looking for now is, what are the steps? Now, it's not a situational question, it's a direct question. You need to be able to make a difference between situational question and direct question. Situational question like, okay, you are faced with this challenge. What will you do? This one is, someone stop attending this. What are the steps that you will take? So understand also the way it's being asked. Now, what I will do if one of my team members stop attending, the first thing I will do is that I'm going to reach out to them to understand the reason why they have not really been part of the daily Scrum. Maybe they just forgot to take a permission or inform us that they were going through some stuff. So when I understand, or if they deliberately don't want to attend it, if they deliberately don't want to attend it, I'm going to ask them why they really don't want to attend it, in order to kind of get their insight from there. When I get their insight, it's going to help me now to craft a plan on what to do, which is the next phase, and a couple of suggestions on what we can do in the next phase. If they don't see value, then we are going to show them, or we are going to sit down with them and help them understand how their presence is not only for them, but to the entire business, and how important they are to the team, and how what they are doing might be affecting the entire team, which they might not really be aware. All right, so I'm going to keep the answer as short as this without really complicating many stuff. Now, our next question says that how do you address new requirements in the middle of the sprint? Now, if new requirement comes in the middle of the sprint, there are a couple of reasons why we're having this new requirement. The first reason might be this is a bug that needs to be fixed immediately. The second might be that there's some urgent change in business value, and the stakeholder need to communicate it to us so that we can already pick that up immediately. Another might be that there's no good communication between the PO and the stakeholder, and requirements keep coming in here and there. So no matter what the reason or the cause of new requirement coming in the middle of the sprint might be, the first thing we want to do is that we want to evaluate the priority. We want to look at how urgent was the priority of this ticket. If all of these tickets are high priority, and then what we have in the sprint are more of low priority, it's okay for us to be able to reprioritize. We bring this into our sprint backlog and reprioritize. All right, I know a lot of people do trade off with their story, but the reason why I don't so much encourage you trading off story, number one, is that if I have 10 stories in my bot, which amount to about 30 story points, and in the middle of the sprint, we have, let's say, 10 story coming in equals to 30 story points. If I trade that over, it doesn't take into consideration the time I've spent working on the previous story, right? And at the end of the sprint, what happened? Your velocity read what you started with and what you finished with, right? So we are not going to have our velocity chart will not indicate that we actually had 30 at the beginning and 30 added. It will not show that, because it read what we started with and what we finished with. It only show us we started with 30, we finished with 30, and the gap that is there will not take into consideration the period we spend in swapping and all of that. Now, your bend down chart will be able to show that, but then the velocity chart, which is used to track trend over time, would not capture that. So I always kind of advise, if you have requirement in the middle of the sprint that must go to the sprint backlog, don't trade off. Just simply put them in there, reprioritize. Your report will show that many stuff were added in the middle of the sprint, and that help you to carry on an effective retrospective in order to go a step ahead to understand what really happened, that this requirement change, and what can we do next time to prevent it. So the first thing you do is that you accept the requirement. The second thing you do is that you reprioritize based on priority. Why you're doing that? You're doing that with your team. Now, what you don't also want to do, what a lot of people do, the mistake they do, is that they say, okay, when I receive this requirement, I'm going to talk to my PO, and then I talk with my team. Most often, if your team is a performing team, all of this requirement will come through the PO. So you receiving the question in an interview that requirement comes in the middle of the sprint, what will you do? It does not simply mean that the PO is not aware. Normally, requirement will not come to you. It's just that this, if we are a performing team, when this come up, now the PO during the daily stand-up, or during the daily stand-up, we say, okay, team, we have new requirements that we need to take up, and that's the first time we are aware. Now, you, the Scrum Master, you're the one that need to facilitate and coordinate how to act on this requirement. That is why they're asking, what will you do? They already understand the role of the PO and the role of the team, but then they want to understand how you will interact with it. So don't say that I'm going to talk with the PO, I'm going to talk with my team, and this already there. If this happened in the middle of this team, I'm assuming that we are a performing team, everyone is aware. This is what I will do. We'll reprioritize the backlog based on the priority of it, and understand why this is coming at this period. If this is really not an emergency, it can wait. But the reason it come at the middle of the sprint, it already tell you that this is an emergency, which means that what you need to do is to reprioritize your sprint backlog, have a conversation with your developer to explain to them why this is very urgent, and apologize for the inconveniences, because it's inconvenience for them trying to shift their focus, and then move on from there. And in the retrospective, you want to have a conversation to go deeper, why this happened and how you can prevent this in future. All right, perfect. Now the next question says, if your team velocity drop over the course of several sprints, what should you do? All right, over the course of several sprints, what should you do? The first thing is that you want to leverage the retrospective event to do a deep cost analysis with your team. Right, if it's dropping, it's not you to fix it. Remember, as a Scrum Master, your goal is to help your team figure out what the problem might be. And if this is a problem like a velocity problem, you want to get into a retrospective where you might use some of the problem solving technique to be able to really get down the 5 why technique, the Ichikawa diagram, which is the fishbone diagram technique, and you ask the 5 why are we having this, and you identify, is it a people problem, is it a process, is it a structure problem. You want to be able to get into that root cause analysis to find out what a problem might be. Then you put in place action item that can help address this problem subsequently. Right, and then the next question says that, what is your favorite retrospective technique and why? All right, retrospective are very important, but they can also be very challenging, especially if your team or you are just coming all the time to look at what we did best, what we can do better, an action item. It becomes very boring. And some people will say, oh, look, our retrospective is just like we're coming to say, oh, this person did not work on this. It's more like a blame game. So they don't see like a reason why they should really engage in the retrospective. So what you want to pay attention to this, or what you want to pay very, very close attention when working with this retrospective, is that you want to make them really, really lovely and get people to make it more like an innovative event. For me, what I do most of the time within my retrospective is that I try not to stick on one style. I may use the easy retro to facilitate this week. The next week, I might use, let's say, I might use the mirror, but the next week I can say, okay, team, I just want us to show appreciation. Let's see, what do you want to be thankful for this spring? Why they are kind of sharing why they are thankful to the PO for always being there, responding, and we there's a lot of information that is being gathered. So I like the open approach where I kind of understand my team member. I try to look at how I can build in their value into every process. Sometimes I might just come and say, okay, look, team, let's play a game. Let's use the chat box. Go into the chat box, put one word that you're really thinking. What word is coming into your mind now as you seated here? And I did one like that in one of the spring, and I found out that, oh, the retrospective cut across lunch for most people that were in the Eastern time zone, and some of that time they're not really happy that if it goes long, they might miss their lunch and other stuff. And because of that feedback, that was just a game that led to that feedback. We're able to come to an agreement, and one of the action items we had for that retro was like to take a time 30-minute back. Everyone agreed with that, and everyone was happy. And most often, you will not really capture that information if you don't try to kind of be open in your open style of facilitating retrospective and making sure that the bigger goal is to understand what can help the team move ahead. Now, the last question in our 7 most asked question, or 7 essential questions you should know as a Scrum Master before getting into an interview. The last one is going to be, do you track team members' daily Scrum tasks? Okay. This is tricky, but then the answer is yes. Now, you don't track like you make them know you're tracking. You pay attention to the tasks. This is what you spend most of your time doing after daily Scrum or after events. Some people feel like, oh, the Scrum Master don't have anything to do. If you are not really paying attention to your team and helping them to understand what they're working on and the way you can help them improve, you realize that you're not really going to add so much value into the team. So as a Scrum Master, what you need to do is that you need to spend time to understand what your team member are working on. Especially if you notice that a team member has been giving update on one story for a long time, it's time for you to kind of take off some time, track what is going on. You may even pull up the story, do some research about it, and maybe you could even help them with a suggestion on the background. The fact that you're not a technical person doesn't mean that you cannot understand. You understand the business value. These days we have the internet that can give us a really great suggestion to really focus on. Spending time understanding team members that might really be a bit slack compared to the previous sprint. Notice that, create some one-on-one on them, have a conversation with them, ask them how things are going, ask them how they can be of support. You are a big motivation and a coach to your team if you really pay attention on that. But at the same time, you want to be also conscious that you're not stepping into their personal space, right? It's open conversation that can lead to other conversation, but then really kind of go to personal and asking about their personal life when they're not comfortable with that. You don't want to do that. All right, I hope this was helpful for someone today, and if that was, make sure that you're sharing that to someone else that can benefit that. And our goal is to make sure that we are learning together all the agile processes, and if there's anything you want me to share, let me know. We're going to be doing some frequent live over here just to help you understand how you can be a good facilitator, you can be a good leader, you can be a good Scrum Master. Until the next video, I will see you. Do not forget to like, do not forget to follow me, most especially on Instagram, guys. I'm starting a challenge on Instagram, which I am going to be putting out a video every day. Now, don't know exactly when I want to start, but I want to make sure I have at least the first 10 set going, and I'm going to launch that. Every day we're going to ask a question, we're going to respond it, so that we can all keep the continuous learning process, which is a very important value of becoming a leader and being agile, ongoing. Thank you very much.